Yo, what's up? What's up? Welcome back to another Proactive Pragmatism. In this Proactive Pragmatism, we are carrying on with our series, Millennials ARE. This next millennial I'd like to bring onto the pod is a husband, manager, Army Sergeant, and Cahokia native, the Frank Gully 3. Yo, Gully, welcome to the show, my man. How you doing?
What's up, sir? What's going on?
Hey, you know what? You can leave those formalities over there. These are two separate conversations.
Got you.
Look, this podcast right now is about what makes Frank Gully 3 great, and I've seen this gentleman in action. So you know what I'm saying. This about you, player. This about you. So
right,
how have you been? How have you been? How have you been? Like, because we just got back from deployment in like December. So like I know you've been like running around crazy. So how are things with you in the Gully household?
Things are going great, man. Just bought a house, first house. So I'm using this house to hopefully one day buy the dream home. So this is definitely an investment. But
Okay.
I mean, jumping back into work, store's doing great, hitting numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no complaints. It wouldn't do me any good anyway. So
you know that was very interesting because I was actually shocked. So we had the gentleman who put us in, God bless his heart. He put us in the the little motivation chat room to motivate him a little bit. But when you started saying you was a manager, I didn't even realize that you was a manager in your full-time job. I thought that you were just trying to get on the police force. So how do you balance being in the military, being an Army sergeant, being a husband, being the manager at Rent-A-Center? Because I know back in the day when me and my family, it was a headache trying to at Rent-A-Center. Hey, I don't know if that couch going back today or tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Hey, they knock on the door, lock the door. So what? So can you speak on that? Because y'all about to go through the struggle too. Because people just got that stimmy. So
that's gonna be we're definitely seeing it.
So I mean,
payoffs.
Okay, all right. So how do you balance all that?
I mean, I would, everybody's first answer is going to be a great time management. I ain't gonna even look. That's a lie. So I ain't even gonna go there. It's definitely not time management. My wife constantly has to remind me, like, "Did you do this?" Oh man, I forgot. But definitely not time management. I would just say the will to be great is definitely how I try to deal with juggling so many things. And like you mentioned, being a manager and trying to get on a police force. So I look at it like this: there's a difference between a job, a career, and a vocation.
Okay.
So what I'm doing right now is, as being a manager, is really, I would say, a mix between job because it pays the bills.
Okay.
And then it can turn into a career, which is something, you do on a day-to-day basis or can advance in because, basically from store manager, then you go to district manager, then the regional manager, and then you in Plano, Texas with the big dogs. Okay. But, I would say.
So you try to be in Plano, huh?
Look, maybe as Walker, Texas Ranger one day, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Like that. All right. A little balance.
Exactly. But the thing about it is, I would say the police, getting to a police academy and then eventually a department is my vocation. And what I mean by vocation is it's my calling. This is what I feel, though God has called me. I'm not, stepping on anybody's toes, with religion or anything, but
I mean, do your thing. It's about you.
I feel like that's what my calling is. And I think that millennials should strive to look for a vocation rather than a job or a career, because when you have a vocation and you feel like it's your calling, you won't, oh man, I gotta go to work today.
Okay.
You're gonna want to get up and go get it because that's what you want to do with yourself and that's what makes you happy.
Okay.
So I would say that right there is how I balance it all. It's because I have to take those. It's definitely a process. Cause I just didn't wake up one day and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna be a police officer today. Hey, if some people can do that, that's great. I love it. But you know, I feel as though, especially with the culture of law enforcement right now, there needs to be that process.
Yeah,
You
your heart
know,
got to be in that.
exactly. And like I said, it's a process, a lot of education involved because that's the half. Look, the you want your brain to be your strongest weapon, you know,
Mm.
and that's with anything that you do.
Okay. Okay.
And as far as that, like I said, it's a process. At one point, I was in school and working
Mhm.
full time, and like you said, in the army as well. So
Mm.
that definitely, and like I said, it was just the pure drive of getting to where I want to be, getting to that vocation, getting to that financial freedom, getting to that, man, I can't wait to go to work today attitude, you know, which would help me get up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning every day.
Mhm.
That's definitely what drives me as far as that.
Okay. Okay. Well, and it's interesting that you do say the balancing of the three things, because what I found is a lot of people don't want to go through that juggling process of
Right.
figuring it out. So oftentimes we bite off things that we're not even inspired to do. We don't even want to do. And
Hmm.
I find time and time again it's that process of just go and do it. You know,
Exactly.
I made a video the other day and I was saying just go and do it. It's not about motivation, it's about discipline. And we
Right.
all, and like you explained earlier with, you know, your wife, like having to, you know, like my phone is virtually my wife. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta put like everything inside of it to be like, you gotta do this on this day, on this day, on this day. Like by the time that this podcast airs, we'll have already 4 or 5 episodes that have
Right.
already been in the shoot. So that you know what I mean? So it's weird. But when you talk about that passion, Gully, that's powerful because I'm like, you start to see the craft and you start learning the process. It has changed
Hmm.
my life and it's definitely become the thing that I look forward to. It's telling other people's stories. And you know, I'm glad that you're on the podcast. But so that brings me to my other question. So how do you balance wanting to be a police officer and wanting to and being from Cahokia? Because you know the culture in that region of Southern Illinois, you know what I mean, is there is a tumultuous culture there when it comes to police officers, and
Right.
how do you balance that on the inside, like seeing your boys and then you know wanting to be a police officer at the same time?
I would say being from the Cahokia or let's say the Metro East area is
Okay.
what is driving me to be a police officer because I
Mm.
might, you know, ruffle some feathers when I say this,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, there's a lot of people that say, "Oh man, the police are this, the police are that,"
Mm-hmm.
and not I would say less than half have even thought about being a police officer.
Mm.
Because you know you got to look at what they do every day. They want to go home just like you do. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they risk their lives to protect you. You know, when you become a police officer and you wear that badge, I mean, it should be more than just a symbol. It's almost like a shield. When you put that badge on, that means you're saying that you're willing to, you know, step in front of a bullet for somebody, run into that house and save that child that might be in a burning building. You know,
Mm.
and that can take a toll on somebody mentally.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, a lot of people would say, you know, they want to see this change. They want to see this change. But how about taking the steps to be a part of that change if you want to see it so bad?
Okay, being the change, right? Okay, walking in that
Exactly.
change, walking in that opportunity.
Exactly. Now, and I do think that, you know, as far because I would say with the Koki, let's say the Koki Police Department, great police, there have some great police officers there, don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, but they're patrolling a predominantly black area.
Mhm.
And I think I might have seen one African American police officer in Cahokia.
On the force. Wow.
Yes,
That's deep
one.
because if you think about it, like the roots of policing actually has roots in slavery. And so that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like if you don't see anybody like you trying to enforce these laws, that makes it hard to even want to cooperate when you already feel like you're at a disadvantage. You know?
Exactly.
That's and people and you know, in the African American community, that's been kind of ingrained in the process there. It's like when you see a police, do this, don't do that, Don't do, like there are inherent rules in the subculture of the African American community of how to act around police officers. And when you see, when people start creating dividing lines, you're like, well, this is rough. I ain't got no job. I ain't got nothing to do. The only thing I have right now is, selling and moving drugs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're less likely to cooperate with somebody that doesn't look like you,
Exactly.
And that's a harsh reality. That's too pragmatic for a lot of people. They're just like, yeah, obey the law. I'm like, it's not really that simple.
And that's where the education comes in, because what are the laws?
Yeah, facts.
I mean,
you and I are both in the military, so we understand red tape. Like the regulations is, and they just keep coming out, getting revised every year, and we got to stay on top of that. So that makes it hard. What inspired you to join the military?
I would say, well,
you keep it 100. You keep 100. How
for sure,
the education thing, people,
for sure. So, my grandfather, he was actually a sergeant in World War II.
Okay.
So, and then my father was also in the military, but he was a flybaby. He was in the Air Force.
Oh.
But no,
you gonna do that to Pop like that?
Look, I always give him stuff about it. But I would say, and I was named after my father, and he was named after his father. So I guess just to keep that kind of tradition alive.
Okay.
And I was so proud when I got my sergeant overseas, because now I'm like, Granddad, you paved the way for me to do this. Like, if anybody, studies the military and things back in World War II, they would know that it was a segregated army. So for a Black man to be in leadership or in leadership role or position during that time is huge. Okay. So that's why I say he paved the way for, me and you to, be sitting there with the rank on our chest. So I was definitely proud of that. Another reason, people say there's no way out. They, just give up. I tell people there's always way out, and I always tell them the Army's always hiring. So if you need a way out or need a boost to your get up and join the Army. Get up and join the military. Join something bigger than yourself.
Facts. No, I
agree.
And
then honestly, if I didn't make that decision, I wouldn't even been on this podcast today, because I wouldn't have met Captain Hamilton. Make those connections.
I don't know who that is, but
Look,
I'll just
look, I wouldn't be able to make those, connections. So I think that was one reason, and then also with trying to be a law enforcement officer, that looks good on your resume. So I always tell people, you use the Army, don't let them use you. So I would say that's one reason I joined, is to get those social networking skills, start making connections with people that were from different backgrounds, ethnicities, you name it, and just to have fun experiences. And like I said, put that stamp on my resume that, hey, I did this. Now help me.
Yeah, well, and I think it's powerful that you said, use the Army, don't let it use you, because I see the blogs and I see the stuff on Facebook, but a lot of people, they go in to use the Army, and then they continue to allow it to affect their mental state afterwards. I mean, this is without war. This is without, a lot of people did serve, and a lot of people need the help, but the biggest problem is there's a disconnect, because a lot of people, they tell civilians that there's no help out there, that but they're not going to get the resources. They're not utilizing it. Their pride and their ego help them boost themselves up to say, yeah, I was in the military and I did this, but that pride doesn't infiltrate their being and their process afterwards. Because the greatest way, I believe, this is just my belief, but the greatest way to pay homage, to the troops before you and after you and the ones that didn't make it back, is to be the best you and take advantage of all the resources that you currently do have, even if it takes going through red tape. Because guess what? Most civilians actually don't even have a vision of the red tape to get through it. But in the Army, it's easy to get caught up into stinking thinking and spin your wheels talking about what you are going to do and what you're not going to do. And that's why, actually during our deployment, you inspired me, because I'm like, if he can wake up every day with no expectations and get after it, what happens if I start doing that? Because at the time, a lot of people don't know this, but they had asked me to take over the platoon because they couldn't find a platoon leader to deploy with that unit. And I was about to pin captain. So I'm like, man, you know, part of me was like resistant because like I had a week, or actually a weekend almost, to get my affairs in order, you know, like, but I was like, you know what, this is going to change my life. And then I get there, you know, and one thing people don't understand about leadership is you have to put in the work for people to respect you. It doesn't matter what rank you have. Like, they can say and do all the salutes in the world, but if you're not living that life, then it's not going to come to you, you know? And so once I stopped worrying about getting promoted and I just tried to be the best leader I possibly could, I started just feeding off of all y'all energy within the platoon. Like, okay, he moved like this, he do this, he got this knowledge about this person doing this. If I add a little bit here, I add a little bit here, then I can be the leader that they need me to be. And we went through a bunch of different platoon sergeants and things like that. And that shaped me and molded me because it taught me how to lead different people. Because in the Army, it's easy to join the military and go, you know what? Like, they need to do what I want them to tell them to do, you know?
Flexibility.
And that never works. How do you implement flexibility when you're working with the troops? How do you not get caught up into the minutia of the task to get done?
Honestly, how do I work with them? So, and you're going to hear me talk about law enforcement a lot, because I know where I want to be as far as law enforcement. Mm-hmm. So I kind of use that as a practice. Like, you know, okay, I have to learn how to deal with this race of people. I need to learn how to deal with this person with this issue or these kind of issues. So I would say I take those and use them as practice to implement them into where I'm trying to go. So it might be a little selfish on my end. And of course, and also, I remember when I was in basic training, drill sergeant debates, best drill sergeant ever. He played a video for us right before we left basic at Relaxing Jackson, Fort Jackson. And it was called "Why Do We Fall?"
Oh yeah, I remember that video.
Yep. And then it was a line or a verse or a line in that motivational video that said, "If you're not making someone else's life better, then you're wasting your time." And I kind of got stuck because I'm like, I want my life to be better. Why am I worried about everybody else's life? And I started to implement that into my life. And like you said, coaching. And eventually my life did get easier and better because with trying to become a leader, I found out that I was only as good as my followers. And being able to deal with a different, you know, race, ethnicity, whatever you want to call it, I'm able to mold anybody to doing something that I need them to do to get done. So I would say that video, and you're gonna hear me reference that video a lot, helped me to become the leader I am today, or the person I am today in general.
Okay, that's deep. I'm actually gonna pull this video up real quick, and then I'm actually play it on the podcast here real quick because this is a pretty deep video. But if I can get through YouTube's red tape here.
And if you need any kind of get up in the morning or think your life is in shambles, listen to this video, and I bet you will get back up on your feet.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me get this picked up. See if it'll do it. All right. So here's the video, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear that, Gully?
No,
can you hear it? You can't hear it? Okay.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Pain is temporary. It may last for a minute, or an hour, or a day, or even a year. But eventually, it will subside, and something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it will last forever.
The margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves, and they want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
Don't be afraid to fail. You can't always win, but don't be afraid of making decisions.
You have to believe that something different can happen. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right.
That most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it. You don't want it badder than you want to party. You don't want it as much as you want to be cool. Most of you don't want success as much as you want to sleep.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us.
You have to dig deep down and ask yourselves, who do you want to be? Figuring out for yourselves what makes you happy, no matter how crazy it may sound to the people.
Make a choice. Like, you just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide.
Why not? Why can't I be the MVP of the league?
So we're gonna stop right there because my man Derrick Rose got on the screen. That boy is a champion. He got so much heart. But that's deep. You know, actually a few years ago, that video was one that I watched like over and over when I just wanted to stop being fat. And like a lot of people, they might say that's harsh or whatever, you know, because people have their own visions of how things should go down. But I think it's very interesting. And like along the deployment, you guys became my why. Every day I wanted to see how you guys would grow. Like when I would have you guys lead the mission and do that stuff, like I could have done that every day. We could have done something different. But, you know, repetition, you know, it breeds permanence. And so you can etch that in the back of your mind. And so I think that's super positive. So another big question that I do have for you is, how do you balance being married and having all these different jobs and different things? Because I see that like the brands that you do have are very, you know, led mostly by your wife, but y'all both got a lot of clout together. So y'all make it look easy out here. Like, is it really easy? Like, because people think people just got clothing and they just do, you know, it's not a hard work. So
I would say anytime you're dealing with a wide variety of people, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. But with juggling being married, so about that, that's my favorite job. I love that job. I love being a husband. It's a very beautiful and positive thing.
wow.
So
Okay.
I mean, I would say that out trumps anything. Like, you know, yeah.
Wow.
I was
Okay.
and I mean, with the business side of things, I love working with my wife, and you know, it leads to a lot of good conversations and brainstorming. And I think that's just one sexy thing when you can just, you know, articulate with a woman and it's just like flowing, and you
Okay.
like, man, how did I get this lucky?
Got that flow
So
going, huh?
exactly. And you know, the perfect combo of brains and beauty is there. It's just the most amazing thing to witness.
That's beautiful.
So exactly. And it is mostly led by her. So I don't have to, I would say, juggle it too much, but I do have a lot of input. She asked for a lot of advice because my minor in college was business.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. So
So
I
was your
have a
major in
criminal justice.
okay, yeah, I was gonna
Yep.
say.
Yep, I
Okay.
have a bachelor's from the University of Lindenwood or Lindenwood University
Okay.
in criminal justice with a minor in business. And I'm
Okay.
actually going back to school. I'm applying for graduate school for this fall at SIUE Edwardsville, so I can get my master's in criminal justice policy and leadership.
Okay.
So, like
Outstanding.
I said, I'm trying to be that change. You know, if
Be the
anybody else,
change. Okay.
exactly, if anybody else wants to get on that wagon with me, feel free to hit me up.
Right.
So I would say with the business, I've always wanted to be my own boss. So,
Okay.
you know, and have something that I can leave for my children. And my wife jumped the gun on it with our the businesses that she's running, which is Newly Pure Luxury Hair Co. LLC. So she just
Okay.
got her LLC for that. I'm so proud of her in doing that. That's a big step for business and getting the
Okay.
paperwork and everything settled. So
Okay.
her hairline will be coming soon, and not only is she going to be selling hair, she is also a hairstylist.
Okay.
She went to
Love the
cosmetology
wife.
school. Exactly. So yeah, and then the designer junkie, that was all a networking thing.
Okay.
So we asked some friends like, what is something that would sell in our given area,
Mhm.
and if we can put something together, how they think it would basically go, I would say. And people mostly say clothing. So I was like, okay,
Okay.
let's find a vendor and get at it. And
Mm.
and that's the thing about it, is just making your mind up and going for it, and don't stop until you get there.
Okay.
So I mean, it's not even as full scale as we want it, but it's those small stepping stones, the process right now. So like I said, hit up our page.
Okay.
um, you
We
mentioned this
got you.
podcast, might put a little, you know, discount
Mhm.
on that for you. So, shout outs to Tommy. So make sure you
Yeah.
watch his show.
You
And I might throw you a little deal or something.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I saw that y'all had something beautiful going on, and obviously, like personally, like I'm a career military man, so it's kind of hard to date and balance that. So I appreciate like you talking about that, because a lot of you probably man the most inspirational husband I've seen on my social media feed in a really long time. So I'm like, if y'all got some notes and some,
Been in the
if you
game
got,
almost 7 years.
this is crazy. So
7 years.
what would you say, like, the biggest piece of advice you have for husbands out there?
I hate to say it, but happy wife, happy life. That is most true. Because if she ain't happy, you gonna have some long nights, and you definitely ain't gonna be happy.
Okay, okay. But see, here's the other thing though, is like, how do you be pragmatic about that approach? Because it's a misnomer if you have the wrong wife.
Yeah.
And and that's the issue, because I remember we was chopping this up about dating in the military and different things like that, and a lot of people, happy wife, happy life, but like they're literally just laying on the ground and not pursuing what they need to do to be that man that she looked forward to having in her life. So how do you balance that, like, between because and what would you say to those guys who are like, happy life, happy wife, happy life, here's a car, instead of like, hey, let's sit down and have a valuable conversation?
Well, I would say, if you got to buy the love, you might want to reevaluate your situation.
Okay, that's real.
But
That's real, because a lot of people look at your situation and be like, is he buying the love? Is he, you know what I mean? Like, because it's easy for people to judge from the outside in. They just make assumptions.
exactly.
Because
Because
go
one thing
ahead.
about it is, it's got to be a love cycle. This is what
Mm,
I call the love cycle. Happy wife, happy life, right?
mhm.
Okay, I made her happy, and now I got dinner waiting for me on the table when I get home.
Ooh, okay,
So
okay. So
it's like I said, it's that
it ain't no
cycle. It's a
take,
give and
take,
take.
take. This ain't a
Right.
parasitic relationship, is what you're saying. It's
Exactly.
symbiotic. It's that
It's
sync.
sacrifice. Yeah, we both sacrifice. It's definitely give and take. We like to, like, I would say that she says that making me happy makes her happy, and it's vice versa. So
Okay.
I think as long as you have that mutual understanding, and be able to connect on an intellectual level as well. That's very also important. Like connecting on an intellectual level as well, because you don't want just your marriage to be based off, let's say physical or emotional. You want that intellectual intelligence to be there as well, so that it can just flow.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to describe it. You got to find that balance. And I often, like, I would take advice from other people that are married, but I also have in the back of my mind, okay, that's their marriage.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't mean it's going to work for me and my wife. Now I can
don't
take
go
those
to the homies. Don't go to the homies and be like, "He's doing this, so I need to do this."
Exactly. So, and I mean, every woman is different. I remember I used to say, see, females. Okay. And she was like, okay, I'm not females, I'm me. And that is really deep. So, like I said, just trying to find that balance is definitely key.
Okay.
And then with being in the military, I mean, also that is why, I give so much to her, because she gives so much to me. Like, I'm all the way on the other side of the world, and she's running a business, taking care of me over there as well. That's the happy wife, happy life. And I got a care package with all my lickies and chewies in it. So, it's definitely a give and take.
That's that balance. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
I agree. So, well, I got a question for you, because we had a conversation during deployment that your parents were older. How old was your pops when they actually had you?
Whew. My dad was in his mid to late 40s.
Mid to late 40s.
Mid to late 40s.
It sounds like you got some old school knowledge and old school wisdom. What was it like growing up with older parents? Because I found, it was my dad, like he was in his, mid 30s ish when I was born. And I felt like there was kind of a disconnect, but you stay fresh. So was you that as fresh as a little kid? Because like I found out that my dad, his version of fresh just wasn't my version of fresh. So he's gonna send me in them Walmart shoes and have at it,
Hold on. And what's so crazy, I'm looking at some baby pictures now. This was about as fresh as I was.
Oh wow, okay. All right. You had a Kango on.
Right. And then if it wasn't that, it was a Pokemon.
So you ain't had the swag your whole life. You ain't. Oh wow, okay.
No,
when did Gully go out there and get Gully? When did he get fresh? Like when did that suave come on?
When Gully find out that, if I want this stuff, Gully gonna have to go out here and get it. So like I said, when I couldn't have a cell phone until I was able to afford one.
Wow. Okay.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the things that I took away from my mom and dad, which I really thank them for now. It was a headache back when I was little, because of course I couldn't go, sign up for a bank account or go get a tax paying job, at 10 or 11. But they gave me the mindset that, the better things in life, you're gonna have to work for it. And you're gonna have to work for it the hard way. Because, if you always want to take the easy way out, sometimes you're not going to come out on the winning end. You might come out on the winning end for a short period of time, but it can be taken away from you. I like the long process, because if I work for it and earn it and put my stamp on it, can't nobody take it away from me.
Big facts.
So I would say, I mean, yeah, like I said, once I was able to afford, the J's, whatever you want to say, that's when Gully got his swag. And then also my wife, she's a very good stylist, so I would say that as well. And I met her going into my senior year of high school, so she keeps me fresh, and that goes back to what we were just talking about. That's that give and take. I mean, happy wife, happy life. I'm gonna stay fresh. Well, but I don't even have to go shop for my clothes.
Facts. And y'all found that passion in the things that y'all was passionate about. You know what I mean? Like people like to look good. And I started the podcast because I'm like, people like to talk about themselves. And guess what? I don't have a lot of knowledge, because life is a learning process. So I figured, why not find a way to get more knowledge by starting a podcast about other people and highlighting who they are. I've got some people lined up who have brands, and I have some people lined up who are just regular everyday people. But I found even as a FedEx man, you know, every day I can learn from each and every one of everybody.
Being
Like
a lifelong learner.
Yeah, that's facts. And a lot of people, they're like, yeah, I can't wait to retirement. I'm not looking forward to that. Like I'd like the bag to be able to go and do other things, but you know, when your passion fuels you, like I enjoy being in the military, you know, and it's one of those things. It is rough. It is tough. I mean, you know, the NCOs, I appreciate you guys. You guys are the backbone of the United States military. So without y'all, I'm nothing. And that keeps me humble and keeps me going because I'm like, I got to take care of these NCOs who got to take care of the Joes. Which brings me to my next question is, how do you balance toxic troops at the squad level? Like, how do you balance those things? Because obviously I've seen you, you know, manage certain things with a smile on your face, even though you knew certain people, you know, had, you know, they weren't looked at in the best graces and a lot of times by their own fruition.
I would say just trying to find that common ground. And I think the best way to deal with situations, especially in situations over there where, you know, we got to have each other's back, you know, no matter if we like each other or not, you know, because over there is, you know, sometimes it could get to the point where it's life or death situation. And the person that you don't like might actually save your life, or you would want them to save your life. So I would say just finding that common ground and, you know, speaking to the individuals individually first and then coming together, because I think that's the big thing about a lot of problems in today's society. We need to, you know, hit things head on instead of just beating around the bush. You know, let's come together and come up with a compromise. You know, stop all the hate and fighting. Because I mean, at the end of the day, what did you get out of it?
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know, the deployment, it taught me a lot about detaching from the situation. Like there is a realistic thing behind let the NCOs handle this. And that there are levels and limits, right? I got to step in on, you know, certain things, and you know, you got to keep your optics always on, you know. And so, but that is kind of true because guess what? They know the troops. You don't. And the more you level up, the more you're detached from that. You know, like when you talk about, because there was a, I talked to another, you know, captain at one point in time. He's like, yeah, you getting paid this, that, and the other, you know. And you want to, sometimes as a leader, you want to take that mentality, be like, well, y'all getting paid, y'all getting this money tax free. But guess what? They don't care about how much you getting paid. Because people care about themselves. and that's super important to get to know the person and ask those questions. Ask them how they're doing. Because that tactical empathy will take you far. And you and I were a part of a situation where I had ruffled some feathers, and I'm glad that we had a relationship and you were able to kind of save that situation. And then, you know, we're back, you know, we demobbing and they bought me a cake. So I learned a lot, and it was a blessing, but it was hard because your ego is like, whoa, you know, on the inside, that little man inside of you is like, well, I'm the leader here. You know what I'm saying? They supposed to do what I asked them to do. Even though that's not, you know, like that's not real life. Like real life is you need them just as much as they need you to get their things done. But you know me, like I'll fight for my troops for anything, you know. But it's that learning curve that people, it's not provided for you. It's something that you got to go find. And unfortunately, a lot of leaders don't find it. And that's why you get a lot of toxicity because people aren't willing to listen. They plan in a bubble, you know. And so we talked about older parents. We talked about your philosophy of getting to know the troops. So what are like some stigmas that you feel that are tied to the military that aren't really true? And is there a millennial stigma that's attached to it? Because I know I hear a lot of people talk about, oh, well, these new troops, they don't know nothing about this. And then I even see, it's funny, right? I even see like the troops that are that are the newer troops talk about the new troops in basic training.
Right, exactly. I would think some of the stigmas that are out there, oh, you in the military, you rich.
Oh, go ahead. Speak on that, Gully. I want to hear about this one. Tell about all the money we make.
Right, exactly. It's so funny. Like, you know, I tell them, okay, one, you got to look at every time you go near a let's say Air Force base, Army base, whatever kind of base, there's always a strip club outside the gates. There's always a car lot outside of base. There's even loan places outside of most, United States military installations. So if that's not a good indication of where all of, some of these lower enlisted, I would hate to say, money is going, like with high interest rates and you name it. Yeah, we're not rich.
With that big old truck.
Exactly. The mud
they gotta
truck.
have the F-250 souped up with the pipes on the back.
with the airborne patch in the back of the back window. Exactly. So I think that I would say that's the biggest stigma that I face is, oh yeah, you in the military, you're rich.
No.
Yeah, you look. If I was that rich, I wouldn't need a civilian job or anything. So yeah.
Okay, you spoke on that. So civilian job. So you talked about that. So what? So your recruiter told you that it was going to be 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. How's that working out for you?
Ooh, just the other day I had to, drive 5 hours to get my gear and was there for about an hour. So, but I mean, it was a blessing in disguise. Like I said, when you join the military, you do get to go to some interesting places. So I turned that, 1 hour, 5 hour trip to have a 1 hour drill into a little getaway for me and my wife in Chicago. So,
oh, okay. Yeah, I did see that.
Yep. So I would say, it happens, the 2 week. Yeah. And then I know, and also they don't tell you about the 3-day drills, the 4-day drills. It's a lot of stuff that they keep out of there.
The sixes.
But we are getting paid.
Yeah. It's hard balance, right?
Exactly. So, you just got to cut your wins and losses at that point. But I mean, it's not too bad.
Well, in the long run, like look at how your lineage has benefited from, the service that was put in.
Exactly.
Like that is a long lineage that has been held up and basically supported by the United States military. And it's been a blessing in my life, but you got to stop being a knucklehead. You got to ignore the strip clubs. You got to ignore the loan sharks. You got to get the car with the low interest rate or just pay for it in cash. The problem is there's a disconnect between a 17-year and 18-year-old getting that much money that fast, because I'm going to be honest, like a lot of people complain about like how much they get paid in the military, but there's no other place where you can start off at 17, 18 years old and, bank, $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's not including BAH. So
exactly.
It's like we're being disingenuous when people are telling, like, I'm not saying don't help the troops, but I'm saying help them help themselves. Because if that doesn't happen, if there's no personal accountability, then they're just going to keep running around in circles.
Exactly.
So how do you maintain personal accountability in your life? Besides, I mean, obviously you got, the wife saying things, but the wife wasn't on deployment. How did you maintain personal accountability there?
I would say definitely a lot of night talks with her.
Okay.
As far as
you was always on the phone caking.
Yeah. But yeah, just that itself, and just the cause and effect kind of conversations in my head. Like, okay, if I do this, how's this going to turn out? If I do this, how's it going to turn out? Just that cause and effect and kind of the work hard now, play later mentality helps me to keep myself accountable as far as what I need to get done and where I want to get to or what I want to see done.
Oh, so you got to actually work hard, because when people look at your social media, they just see you turning up. That's all you do is turn up, look fresh, and what I'm saying, go on dates. That's all you do.
Because I like to turn up and be like, okay, yeah, let's go turn up. Oh man, how I'm gonna pay this tomorrow? Or oh my God, this is going. Yeah, no, I want to be able to enjoy myself and actually enjoy myself without going back to so many problems.
Okay.
So that's definitely, like I said, that work hard now, play later mentality that I got from my older parents.
Okay.
Because I can definitely tell you, me and my mom used to argue night after night after night. So I would get done with my homework from school. And I'm like, okay, now I can go play the game, go chill out, do what I want to do. she used to go to teacher stores and buy different educational books that had like different assignments. So after I got done with my school homework, I had to do her homework.
Wow.
But
That's tough, bro. Like, I don't know how you survived. Like,
but looking back at it, I'm like, she set me up for success. And that's a big thing about getting ahead is and staying ahead is like you were saying, being able to keep learning, becoming that lifelong learner. Because that's one key in today's society is being able to make yourself marketable.
Well, and the thing is you don't that's powerful what you just said, because you don't have to pick up a book anymore. You can watch a video. You can listen to a book. Like, I remember you used to have to go to the library and get them big old fat little cassette tapes if you wanted to like
and don't get me started on the encyclopedia.
You know what I'm
saying? Don't get me started on it. Look, like, there was no scholarly journals. It was you had to go look through a 1,000-page book to find a source.
Now you can get on the proactive pragmatism and watch a video and listen to something and then find it out, you know.
Exactly.
Shameless plug on my actual podcast. That's funny. But that's beautiful. You know, as we're kind of moving on towards the end of this podcast episode. Do you have any questions for me?
If I had one question to ask Cap.
I mean, I'll give you 2, 3. It's cool. I mean, you can start with one, but you know how I go on tangents. You know, I get on my soapbox. Gibbs hated that. Shout out to Gibbs.
I actually saw him yesterday. He came. It looked like he even got a little taller. He probably gonna hate me for saying that on this show. It looked like he got a little taller.
He was wearing his good boots that day.
And he didn't have any boots. He had on some Nike Air Maxes.
The Air Max will give you a little boost. We got to give a crap about that later.
Well, let me see. If I had a question, what drives you every day to become a better you?
The chance to actually know that I have the opportunity to become a better me. Like when I wake up every day, like I don't have perfect days, but I schedule, you know, I try to make sure that I stick to, you know, like by 8 o'clock, I have to be out of the door and at the warehouse. Like by this time, because I realize all the stuff that I want to do in my leisure, like podcasts and all that stuff, like it's on my time. So I have to balance my time. And so I value my time over money. I value my time over a lot of things, because if you give away your time, you really have nothing. And so what keeps me on track is knowing like the next day I can kill it. And I look at my life, and I think it's the hard part about being an officer is you have to, and it's hard, but it's beautiful, because you have to think weeks ahead of time. You have to think years ahead of time. You have to think months ahead of time. And it's blessed me, but it's made me into this crazed person that people are like, why is he getting up at 4 in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning to go for a run to get to the gym? Yeah. Like people, like a lot of people, it's weird. Like people think that, like, I've heard people say like they think I'm cocky and arrogant or different things like that. Like I am just a product of an environment where I wasn't supposed to make it out of, and I wasn't supposed to survive. Like most of my childhood, like my Christmases were spent in homeless shelters with me and my 5 sisters. And so, or the Women's Center of Carbondale, shout out to them. We had to leave during the daytime. We couldn't check back in till dinner time, like 4 or 5 at night. But it was a bunch of ladies in there that was, you know, without homes, just like us, cooking us meals, you know, and we'd all do our part. But that's what drives me, is like the fact that like I have an opportunity to make this the greatest day ever. Today, my drive was I have the opportunity to interview Frank Gully III and tell his story and see what makes them tick. And then I released a podcast episode today. And like that was going, I'm like, man, I think I found my passion and what I want to do. And
not that vocation.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like everything that you see thus far is from, you know, small parts of college, stuff like this, all this layout stuff. Like I learned like the program I didn't learn in college, but I learned how to make things look and like communicate a different way. And, you know, shout out to Eastern Illinois and all the teachers and everybody that's been on my path. But it's the process of like, if I can talk to one person and help them change their life. And one thing I've stopped doing is I've stopped offering advice. Obviously, we went through a deployment. There are certain knuckleheads who will never listen. And so I give feedback when it's necessary. I address the issue. And then, you know, I'm like, if you want to talk about this, we can talk about this. But right now it seems like, you know, you don't want to talk about something. But the process motivates me because the process keeps me fulfilled. It keeps me fulfilled on the inside. If I get one viewer, like, I'm completely fine with that because I played a long game. Most people that are super successful, 5 to 10 to 20 years. Bezos didn't crack yesterday. And I may never be even a 16th of the man that he is. But at the same time, it's like, but if I don't follow my passion and do what I'm passionate about, then I felt like I left too much in the cup. So I just try to pour that cup into other people. And then if they pay homage back, cool. If they don't, like, literally, I live with no expectations. There are no disappointments and expectations. I even, you know, adopt that same mentality with my daughter because I can't expect her to be everything that I want her to be today, you know, but I can talk to her. I can reach out to her and say, hey, I'm going to go, you know, I'll reach out to her mom and I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to see you. You know, I'd like to see you this Saturday. They're like, oh, we plan on going to the zoo. I'm like, roger that. Y'all going to the zoo. That's the cool part is the military actually helped me change my perspective because I'm like, if I can't change it, why worry about it?
Exactly.
But that also fuels back to what I can change, I will change, and I can adopt that. I'm gonna get up tomorrow and do 3 to 4 miles. You know what I'm saying? And so it's one of those things where like I know that if I stay on top of it, like greatness is around the corner. And it's nobody else's level of greatness because I'm holding myself to the task. The problem where people get off is they don't process the fact that like don't live to other people's standards, live to your standards. But make your standards so high that they outweigh the other people's standards. So even if you meet only 75% of what you try to achieve, you're still, you know, 25 to 50% more than what other people expected of you. So
and you still have time to get to the other 25% as well.
Yeah, and that might come in a different faucet. Maybe in life you're not ready for that. Like if you look back at my previous YouTube videos, they was in the car. It was me yelling, ranting about how I felt. You know, people, because back then, like it was a couple years ago, people were talking about positive vibes, and I'm like, yeah, positive vibes, cool, but that doesn't work. And then I didn't know how I was going to start this podcast. I just created a logo that said the Hungry Millennial Network, and then I started an Instagram page that said the Hungry Millennial, and then like. While I was deployed or before? But within the last year and a half, I was like, man, you know, what do I want people to be? I want them to be proactive, but I also want them to keep it real. I want them to be pragmatic. So I was like, wait, proactive pragmatism.
There you go.
And there it was. And I was like, wow. But I had laid the foundation years ago. Like I had envisioned, but I didn't know what I envisioned. I knew I wanted to add value, but I'm like, how do I add value? And I tried doing a podcast with a bunch of other people, but it kind of flopped. So I was like, you know what? Create my own podcast. I'm gonna start talking. Like some of my video, like some of my old podcasts, they're like, when you wake up, what you want to do is because I was literally up at 3, 4 in the morning on that podcast because I was like, I'm gonna do this every day, and I wasn't realistic about my goals. I was like, yeah, every day I'm gonna drop a video. I was like, yeah. I start dropping a video every day. I'm like, I ain't got nothing to talk about. So
I got one more question for you.
Go ahead.
Let me see. Andy Dalton or Mitch Trubisky?
Lord Jesus.
That's what I'm saying. This next question probably will make you probably gonna make me exercise next time I see you.
Look, neither. I probably won't watch the NFL. I probably won't watch the NFL this season.
Look,
didn't they let go of Ben? Didn't they let go of Ben?
No, he actually signed another contract, and we got Juju back.
Oh, okay. Y'all probably gonna do better than us. We got some miracles, but they've been trying to do underhand trades. I think they like Hicks. They try to like say, "Oh, you can sign with somebody else. We don't care." Like that's the most disrespectful thing. But the Bears,
Y'all had Russell Wilson right there.
I don't think we really had him. And the thing is like he might sign like, I don't know if he signed anybody yet, but he might sign like a slight deal. And I heard like they was trying to clean up the roster. Like they've been getting rid of some receivers that really, you know, ain't there, you know, stuff like that to try to clear off for the next year. So we'll see how that goes. But like those decisions, like they've made some horrible decisions. We could have Patrick Mahomes, like, and he can play his butt off with no defense. So, and then they could have built a square defense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because he wouldn't have proved himself right away in Chicago because we ain't got the line for it. So he would kind of, and they line not that great over there at Kansas City. So it is what it is, man. I you know what? Ego me years ago. Like, hey, what? Not my Bears, don't, you know? I'm like, you know what?
Right.
Guess what? You can't change it. You can still be the best Bears. I'm a Walter Payton fan. That's what I say. I just rock my Walter Payton hoodie. And, you know, okay, all right, man. That's it. I got GOAT status. You know what I'm saying? Cool. So, but that's it. You got anything else?
No, I think that's all I have for you.
Okay. Well, you know what, Frank, I really, and it's weird calling you Frank because I'm so used to calling you Gully. I really appreciate like having you on the podcast. Like this meant the world to me that you would come on my podcast and grace me with your presence because every interview I value, like, because I start running through the things that we talk about and I'm like, take that, put it in your toolkit and you can implement that. So I appreciate you coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, you got any last words or anything?
Go out and follow Pure Luxury Hair LLC. Like I said, it will be coming soon. Men, happy wife, happy life. So go ahead and hit up that page, get it that good stuff, that good hair.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another Millennials ARE podcast. I appreciate you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, the Frank Gully.
Free.